on, everybody? You have another episode of 20 Tim Minutes. I am your host, Tim McCarthy. Today, I am glad to have CEO, entrepreneur, author, podcast host, just a great overall dude, Tony Grebmeier. Tony G. Did I pronounce that right?
Bam, let's go. The show's rocking now. You got this stuff going.
Whoa, I almost paused right there. I was buffering. I think my own Wi-Fi was disconnected for a second.
You did great, man. You know what? My mom was a school teacher and they could never, kids would walk in. And so she would just put her name up on the chalkboard, dating ourselves, Miss Grebmeier, and kids would go, Miss Grubby, Miss G, what do you call me? And I'm like, teacher. And so I've always struggled because my name is a little long, but at the end of the day, man, Tony G's fine. So you did great.
Tony G is a way better moniker to have. It's smooth, gets to the point. It's everything.
It sounds legit too.
Oh, so legit. And I feel like we all have that moment in our names where substitute teachers do it wrong, or you get picked on for your name. Mine was always Tiny Tim. And then when South Park came out, it was Tim A. And I was like, yeah, I get it. My name's Tim.
How tall are you?
5'6", but I'll be 5'7" if I stretch in the morning.
That's good. So I'd be 6'7" if I stretched in the morning too.
You're 6'6"?
Yes, sir.
Damn, you got a whole foot on me. But I like being little. You never, dude, I don't want to make you sad.
I watched you walk into your closet. I mean, you literally walked in and walked out. It was like, if I was in it, it would be like in Willy Wonka when they were trying to go to the back room. I'd have to be like.
You would have to fold you up to get in here. Yeah, this is a small ass closet. I don't know how I climbed in. But this is kind of fucked up. I don't want to scare you when you get older. But how many 89-year-olds have you seen that's 6'5" and above?
I've never really looked.
Yeah. The only person I can think of is Boston Celtic great Bill Russell. He's the only one that's still going. So I don't know. I'm sorry to scare you like that. I'm going to survive forever, which is awful, but little people, because they get the hunchbacks.
Yeah, just jump on Elon Musk's, SpaceX, and, you can go to Mars. You can live forever there too.
Oh, I would rather the ship go right off its course.
There you go.
So Tony, you have so much going on. When we talked previously, it was a lot to keep up with, which I love. You motivated me by the end of it. So hopefully we do the same with the end of this interview. So right now you're doing big things. You took the time out of your day to meet with me. So I do appreciate that, my man. So you were down and out for a pretty long time. You had 14 jobs when you were 18. You're in recovery right now, 12 years, $1 million in debt. What was that all about? Right now you're in a $40 million business that you started from your garage. What is this, Amazon? Called ShipOffers. So let's start from the beginning. Just the typical, tell me everything about yourself. No, let's talk about your story a little bit, because where you are now is incredible, but the story to get there, I think, is even a little bit more.
I think the story for anybody, if you really stopped and just asked questions, you would find some really interesting tidbits that you could say, hey, I do want to do that, or I don't want to do that. And, you mentioned the 14 jobs by the time I was 18. It was raking lawns, gutters, painting fences, hauling stuff to the dump, working at, at an amusement park, working at an arcade, working at a liquor store, working at a shop, doing whatever, trying to figure out what maybe I did and didn't want to do with my life. Right. And one thing I did want to do was be around people. I knew that at an early age, that my parents divorced when I was, 3 months old. I went to several different schools trying to figure out, do I want to live with my dad? Do I want to live with my mom? And the reality was I just wanted to figure out how to belong, because I felt like a little bit of an outsider, because I was the kid who had the single parent where everybody else was married in the neighborhood. That's how I grew up.
Yeah.
And not the white picket fence neighborhood, but very similar to what that kind of felt like, which was my mom had to work 3 jobs to put food on the table. There's that kid, that Grebmeier kid, sad story about his parents getting divorced. And that's how I felt. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like the energy was that in return. It was just how I started processing. And so I lived a little bit with my dad. And when I went with my dad, oh, there's that rich kid, living with his dad. My dad was a president of a chapter of the ASID, which is for interior designers in the Bay Area. He produced the Miss California pageant. My dad did really, really well for himself, but he also didn't. And he made a lot of money and lost a lot of money. And so he kind of went BK a couple times. And so I modeled what I saw, but I didn't know the damage behind the scenes. I didn't know about the the bankruptcies. What I saw was, wow, look at me. He was the only guy I ever knew. He had an RV, had an office in it, in the like basically outside where he lived. I was like, damn, he had a mobile phone, but it was like plugged in and it was legit. And I saw that. And so I started trying to emulate that. And that ultimately, I don't blame anybody or anything for my situation. I take 100% responsibility, which I tell anybody that I talk to or work with. I'm like, until you own your past, your shit, you can't create a new future. You are stuck living in the reverse mindset. And so flip the switch, get legit, like get focused that today is going to be the best day of your life because your attitude has to be everything. And so that dark road led me to, get into some really amazing opportunities, but also that led to drugs, alcohol, and things I'm not proud of that eventually kind of somewhat derailed me and almost got me to the edge and the verge of, committing suicide. But, I always say, thank God my buddy John knocked on the door during my darkest moment on October 2008, walked in, gave me a hug and told me my life had meaning and purpose. And what I really love to talk about, with you today or anybody is I want to talk about the here and the now. The past is gone, right? In this present moment, I'm working on creating the future. I want to live and I want to inspire people to do that themselves.
How do you tell people to live in the moment? Because I'm always worried about the future. And like you said, you're always in the constant now, worrying about what you're doing now. Like, how don't you worry in the future?
Well, I mean, I could, but I was just talking to a buddy today. He got into some trouble and he was like, what do I do? And I'm like, well, you call your attorney and your attorney's going to say, well, we got a pretty good case. I got a good chance here. And you go over here and you do something different. You got a pretty good chance to maybe to do it. So there's a line that you have to decide. And I will say this, I'm a believer in God. Like God sent an angel to save me. And I am a true believer that God exists. I believe this on inside the material that I read on page 420, it says, I do nothing while waiting for God to tell me what to do. I do what's ever in front of me to be done. And I leave the results up to God. However it turns out, that's God's will for me. So I got to do whatever is the next right thing. And that's where I live. So, I can get really ahead of myself and live in like the next 2 or 3 hours. But I think even when you and I were talking, I said, nothing else in the world matters but this conversation right now.
I
My
know.
kids are doing what my kids are doing. My wife's doing what she's doing. Business partners are doing what he's doing. People are doing what they're doing. So I might as well just be 100% present in this moment with you because that's all I got control over.
When you said that to me, it like really hit me. I was like, damn. And I was like telling my wife about that. And I was like, oh, I talked to Tony G. And he was just like, he's like, the best part of my day is right now talking to you. And I was like, oh, that makes me feel just so special.
Yeah. And I want you, but anybody that you talk to, like you say before you hang up, like, hey, I love you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's part of you. It's shocking to people when you mention that you care about them or love them or, hey, next time I see you, man, I can't wait to give you a big bear hug. And they're like, oh, that's so weird. I'm like, I know it's so weird. That's why I want to do it because there's going to be a time when I am gone because no one gets out alive. There's going to be a dash between the day I'm born and the day I die. And that's where now I choose to be present and live. Right. And what would I want on my tombstone? What would I want it to read? That he was present when I had an opportunity to be with him. That's what I'm ultimately striving for in all relationships that I have is just to give 100%. It doesn't mean that I'm perfect. I make a ton of freaking mistakes. Sometimes my wife, like yesterday, we were doing something. She's like, hey, can I get your attention? I'm like, thank you. It takes me a minute to snap into that mindset because it's like a game of pinball, right? The ball's all over the place and you're trying to like control it all. And then when you just go, shit, multi-ball happened and now balls are flying everywhere and you're trying to juggle. And sometimes you just got to put your hands up and go, let's get back to the basics. All the balls go back down and get that one ball and just focus on that. And that's what I'm doing with you.
I like that analogy. What's your favorite pinball machine?
Oh, it probably something around like Star Wars. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got to be just from a little kid, Raiders of the Lost Ark. My business partner had like this old pinball when we were growing up. It was like a beach, like something around. I grew up in Santa Cruz, California. Just something about. I don't care what the game is. They all have the same goal. Get the high score, man. Like that's it, right? And presented with the opportunity, put in another quarter and continue. Don't quit.
Yeah.
unless someone else got your attention and you got to go, but stay very, very focused on the task at hand. And that's what we try to do every day as human beings is we are presented with opportunities left and right. And I try up every morning to deposit a quarter and continue and build upon what I learned from yesterday and the previous days to build upon a better day today.
I was a big Adams Family Pinball guy. If you care,
That was a fun
but
game.
that was a great one when the thing came out. That was always a fun one. Now with the quarter into a jar, that analogy, that's like something that you tell people to do, right?
Yeah. And it's so funny that you talk about it. And I even have one sitting right here. We just are rocking this new concept. I'm going to launch it in about a month, but it's called You Are Worth It. And you remind yourself of the gift of self-care by making a deposit daily. And then when you're done depositing after, what you choose, if it's, 40 days, 100 days or whatnot, just go and donate the money. Go give it to somebody or something. And because there's an act in the giving aspect that all of us should expect to at least know. Like if you've ever been in a line at a restaurant and someone paid for your food or like, hey, let me buy you a drink. And it just feels good. I have a hard time with generosity. I have a hard time with people giving me stuff.
Same.
Because I feel like you want something from me. And so I'm working through that. That's part of my time right now. I'm getting up in the morning and that's the first thing I do is I go here and I deposit every day. I meditate and kind of think about like what I should do with my day. Like you talk about things that you're grateful for. That's in my journal that I wrote. Like, what are 3 things that you're grateful for? What's your current focus is really what this is.
Yeah.
And then all day live with that current focus. Cause so many people, I don't know, maybe you've experienced this in your life. You post a episode of your podcast and you're like, fuck, you didn't get that many listens. So what you do instead of work on it anymore is you bury it and you go replace it with something else. I'm like, okay, wait. It didn't work the way I wanted to. I'm like, but I'm a marketer. Like, what can I take my podcast and rip it up into 20 bytes now instead of going and just putting out another episode? Can I go put it on Instagram, LinkedIn? Can I put it on TikTok? Can I make some funny meme videos about it? Can I actually take it and then go, I'm going to put it out for the next 5 or 6 days on all these different platforms. And what's the feedback that I'm going to get? Now, if after 5 or 6 days it just completely bombed, then I'm like, all right, I need to go back and deep dive into the content and think, what did I say that didn't resonate? Maybe I don't want to work on that, because then I'm going to go back and even look further at one of my previous episodes and see what really resonated. And I want to do more of that.
Yeah.
Right. So everything that you're doing right now is teaching you a valuable lesson. The problem is most of us are not paying attention to it. So we're moving fast to go do the next thing. I'm like, no. When your wife says you're being a jerk and you're like, I promise I won't be a jerk anymore. And you move on. And then a month goes by and your wife goes, you're being a jerk again. You're like, should have listened to her a month ago and worked on it. Now that blind spot is no longer a blind spot. It's a choice. You're choosing not to. And I'm like, isn't that interesting? So I'm a big believer. Everybody's giving you data and you're just not processing.
That's just more being in the moment with that. Instead of worrying about it later, you deal with it now.
Yeah. And it sucks because sometimes it can consume, 5 minutes of your time to go, don't be an asshole. Like, because my first thought is specifically selfish and self-centered. I've come to the conclusion of that. My first thought, my knee-jerk reaction is about me, my ego. That's edging good out, edging God out, whatever you want to call it. My second thought is less selfish and self-centered and more open-minded, right? And then I can go, hey, you know what? Like last night, we were sitting on the sofa getting ready to go to bed, and my wife just looked at me and she's like, do you want to dance? And I'm like,
yeah, you always dance when you have the opportunity.
And I'm like, sure. But it's not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But afterwards, it was the thing I wanted to do. In the moment, I was just like, I'm just really tired. I want to go to bed. And that's what I'm learning, even in recovery and life. And, I've been on this planet almost, 49 years, is that every day is an opportunity to work on yourself. Like people often think like, when do you arrive? And I'm like, I don't think you ever arrive. I don't think there's ever a place in your life where you're like, I've made it.
Right.
But I enjoy the journey. I enjoy the process. I enjoy waking up every single day and putting myself under my own microscope to look at like, where can I make adjustments? Because I want to have less issues. I want to cause less people harm and pain. I did that for about 20 some odd years of my life. And then I really had to come into this whole world and mindset that, if I want things to get better, maybe I should work on making things better myself. Right. And that I ask for a lot of help. I talk to a lot of people. I encourage, you have to be the one willing to do the work. No one's going to do it for you unless you can't yourself for some reason. But I usually will say, like, in all of us is the ability to change if we have the desire to change.
I like that. My wife's gonna love this moment, but she's gonna be like, "You're a jerk," and I'll be like, "No, let's wait a bit." She's like, "Tony G said deal with it now," and I'm like, "Fucking Tony." Now to back up a little bit with the putting it in the box for donating, who or what do you like to donate yours to? Is this just something random that you think of in the moment? So you know what? You don't think about it. You probably just do it in the moment.
I mean, this was crazy. I got this text yesterday, and I didn't save it just because I was going to like use it again. I just got this from somebody last night, and I just thought this was so just. I guess this is what I'm trying to do. It says recently I started following this writer. Person shared who that writer was.
Mhm.
Not sure I've ever told you this story, but the first time you ever met my mom, and to be clear, you had no idea it was my mom, you were at a Starbucks and were kind enough to exchange a few words with her. Then you bought her a cup of coffee, and that coffee made her day. That was several years ago. I haven't forgotten your kind gesture, and neither has she. And I think for myself, all I ever wanted, see, I think we do what we're really like. I think we're good at giving because we're bad at receiving,
Oh yeah.
right? So if that's the case, so I'm like, okay, I deflect. I'm like, I'm just going to deflect. So through this kind of process and this chapter of my life, I'm really working on receiving, but still doubling up my giving. And so I don't really mind what organization, if it's a children's hospital, if I saw a friend struggle, or a homeless person, or wherever I can give, I am. Like I don't believe God says, all right, Tony, you have the ability to choose anything you want today. What should you do? And I'm like, I want to choose that one person in
Yeah.
that one little section. I'm like, go give and make the world around you a better place. I live by Gandhi's quote, be the change you wish to see in this world. It starts with me, it doesn't start with you. And just go be the person that can make the world a better place. And so if that's my attitude and that's all I can give today, hey man, that's the best deposit. If you're at a grocery store in the parking lot, there's a bunch of shopping carts, give back by pushing a couple shopping carts. And I always tell people will go, oh, that's not my job. I'm like, damn right, it's not your job, but it's a great opportunity to be of service. And if service is so measurable that it's just pushing in a shopping cart, the impact that can have is somebody else does it. And maybe you didn't realize that most grocery stores, the people that they hire, have a handicap, a disability.
Yep.
And so you're just helping to make the world a better place in any form or fashion. If you find a penny on the ground, one of my mentors always said, pick it up and say, I'm a money magnet, and then go donate it when you're on the checkout. Like there is something for all of us to take from this conversation or any conversation and go share. That's how the world becomes a better place.
A couple things about what you said, which are great. So first off, with the penny thing, my wife thinks that you shouldn't pick up a penny if it's face down. You only pick it up when it's face up. Have you heard that before?
Dude, I'm 6'6", bro. Like it takes me a heck of a long time to get down there and pick it up. And like if I get down there and I'm like, my eyes are bad. If I get down there and I'm like looking that close,
Yeah.
I just pick it up and then just go donate it.
All right. I like that.
Okay.
And then with the shopping cart thing drives me nuts. I feel like that's a litmus test for people that I'll watch them to see if they put it back or not. But I agree with like pushing the other ones back if it's on your travels or just going on your way. But yeah, that's one of my hugest pet peeves is watching people not put the carriage away and saying that same exact thing.
Yeah. And there is laziness is to blame for shopping carts.
Yeah.
Like I literally think it would be awesome if the shopping cart got put in front of your car, right? And it realized that it was left out of its place, that it shot like a little dart out and then it attached itself to your car. And then when you drove away, it was smashing into your car.
Yeah.
You're like, and then it just pulled itself back and it just sat there going, I wonder if it'll push me back now. Right. And then like cause it to just fuck with you, like just mess with you a little bit because it's just pure laziness.
Yeah.
It's raining, it's hailing, it's snowing. Well, you chose to go out. That's life.
Yep.
Go put it away. That's life too.
Exactly. I'm with that. And to back up a little bit with the gift giving, I'm the same way because I feel like I need to have a certain reaction when I open up a gift where I'm like, I got to make sure they think that I really like it, even though I do, but my reaction time isn't that good. So I get like so nervous. But then on the flip side, I like to give, but my gift giving sucks. I always give I always give a bad gift, but because I'm judging their reaction. So it's kind of like a vicious cycle.
I think you should do what you do for the intro, the rock, paper, scissors, and just ask them to put a blindfold on and you do it too. And then on the count of 10, you open your eyes and then they have the gift open. Here's the interesting part, man. I struggle a lot around Christmas time giving gifts because I think, did I give enough? Did I do my part? And good friend of mine, John Rulin from Giftology, it's not really the gift, it's the experience of the gift. And what does that mean? And so work harder on the kind of the idea behind the gift, and no matter what it is, it'll be perfect.
I like
And
that a
that's what
lot.
I'm striving to do, is just learn from people who have done it a lot more than me and help me to understand where, remember, it's only a blind spot once. Now you and I are talking about it. Now it's choices. Now we have choices in becoming better at gift giving and gift receiving.
I also don't like getting recognition. I feel like you're the same way. Like I've bought in coffees for like drive through behind me, and the second I grab my coffee, I speed away because I don't want them being like, "Oh, thank you," like talking to me about it because I don't want it. So there's been a couple of times where like I almost got pulled over, I crashed because I just don't want that recognition. I don't know. I feel
Mm.
so awkward about it because it feels like it's a cockiness thing. It's like,
If you
yeah,
can
look at
do it,
me.
if you can do it, don't just buy the car behind you. See if you can buy like 3 or 4 cars behind you,
Yeah.
right? Now you don't have to speed away because then they'll think the car in front of them did it and the car in front of them did it. And now you can just drive away. You're like, so it's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, fan, dude, that's perfect. I love it a lot. Let's back up a little bit more because there's so much going on with your podcast. What's that all about? How long you been doing that? Um,
My podcast is making dog bones. No,
nice.
I'm just kidding.
It's called Throw Me a Bone podcast.
Everything in my brand is all about finding fulfillment.
Hmm.
So ShipOffers is a professional fulfillment service for online marketers, primarily in the health and wellness space. We've got like 50 plus products that you can white label. If you're a marketer and you already know how to sell, you've either probably come across a company similar to ours, or using a company like ShipOffers to help kind of send products to your customers, and we'll slap a label on it and kind of help deliver on that fulfillment promise. And, you heard a little bit 12 years ago, my life was lacking
Hmm.
some personal fulfillment. And I wanted to figure out why. And I went kind of down the rabbit hole several different times and I kept coming back. Like, I just didn't know where to start. And so my whole mission in life is, despite your past, I can help you to create anything in this future, in this present moment, any kind of future you want. And so a lot of my friends started asking me, like, why don't you start helping others like you helped me? Like, why don't you do something with it? I'm like, well, I could get back into podcasting. I was in radio. And then I'm like, well, I could probably put some of that stuff down on paper. Because if you walk into my office, I've just got notes and papers everywhere. I'm
Yeah.
even, making notes from you right now. And so I just started taking my thoughts and then expanding upon them and putting them into my daily work. And somebody asked me the other day, isn't this basically your journal? I'm like, this and this are very much the same. It's getting you to stop and getting you to work on you, right? They're just different channels. That's why we're launching an app here in probably the next, 45 or so days. They're
Fantastic.
just ways to get a new audience. So a podcast was just natural for me. I got into radio at age 11 all the way to 13, FCC license at, 13 years old.
How?
And then I forgot about it, went off to, high school, college, went into college, walked one day by a radio station. And I remember John Giorgio, the guy was in there. And I said, hey, can I take this class? And they're like, you gotta go take that class. I'm like, to talk on the fucking radio? I'm like, I gotta go take another class. I'm like, I already know how to talk on the radio. I've done it. He's like, nope, you gotta take this. I'm like, all right, what do I need to do to just prove to you guys that I could do this? And so his colleague, her name was Carol Benson, says, I'll give you a shot. And then that semester I was rock Bob, country Bob, reggae Bob, and then Tony. And I was the only one hired out of that whole program that like semester. And I got a job pushing buttons for Bob Kingsley and American Country Countdown. So if you've ever heard of country music, Sunday morning, Saturday nights, they play these pre-recorded shows. And I was a button pusher at a station in Modesto, California. And then one thing just led to another that I got an opportunity to eventually speak. And then after I got out of radio, met my wife, we had kids. I didn't want to go back to work for somebody. I was pretty much unemployable kind of in the way that I live and kind of like my life. And so I started this company, and this company was 14, 15 years into the making. And one day somebody said something about podcasting, and I'm like, I think that'd be cool. So I could
Yeah.
just talk about what I want to talk about and people would listen. I'm like, really? I'm like, there's 7 point some odd billion people on planet Earth, and people are going to tune in. No one's going to tell me what to do because I hated being told. I don't know about you, but I hate being told what to do.
Same.
All right. And so, yeah, this is my third kind of brand off of the podcast. I launched Entrepreneur Unplugged originally. Then I got a cease and desist because of the word entrepreneur. Then I launched like the Tony G show. And then I was like, that doesn't really speak to me. And then I go, I think what I really want to do is be fulfilled. And I was like, oh, so then the name kind of was already up on a wall at our business. I was like, I want to be fulfilled. So I created a whole moniker and a personal brand all around be fulfilled. So anything that has to do with fulfillment in your life, man, I think we want to be fulfilled in what we do. We want to know that you're feeling great joy in holding your baby, or great joy in the job that you do, or whatever it may be. And so the whole brand and everything came from really just realizing that I was lacking personal fulfillment in my life. And then I set out to figure out how to do it. Then people started asking me, hey, can you help me? Can you teach me? Then I decided to take all those resources and put them into some components, and then made those components available in different delivery systems, right? Like a podcast, coming out with an app, a journal, courses online, whatever it may be, to help people, because not everyone's going to be the same finding that path. So your job, at least what my belief is, my job is to make sure that there's enough availability for people to have resources, and then I'll attract the people I need to attract.
Now you held up that book. I don't think we talked about this on the air. What is that book that you picked up? The journal? Is that the journal right there?
Oh yeah, so I have two. One with a friend, Anna David. She helped co-author this one. This is about recovery, and then this one is mine, and this will always be my own kind of like story. There's 360 pages in it, and it's the Be Fulfilled Journal, and it's been phenomenal. It's been out since October 15th of 2018.
Oh wow. You have to send me one. You already promised you would send me one, so don't.
Yeah, I'll totally send you one.
Now, I don't think you heard me. 11 and 13, you got into radio. How did that work?
I went to a place called Robert Louis Stevenson after the author. That was a school named in like Pebble Beach. My dad sent me kind of like summer camp, and I was in the theater program, like preparing for like the 10 Little Indians, and I was like the first little Indian to die. And I'm like laying on my back after I died. I think I drank poison or something. I don't really remember how the first little Indian died, but I look up and I could just see people up there, like, like doing this and jamming. And I go, hey, what's up there? They said, that's the radio station. I said, oh, cool. Like the show finished. I walked up there and I said, hey, can I try this? And they're like, sure. And so a couple of weeks later, my very first record I ever played was You Spin Me Round Round by Dead or Alive. And I remember U2. I mean, it was just the Rolling Stones, just like killer music that I liked.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is awesome. And it was great for meeting girls.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool. So I did that until I was 13, and then I totally forgot about it. And I went home back into like junior high. And then there was a radio station, 102.5 KDON, Salinas, Santa Cruz in the Monterey Bay. And it was like killer hip hop music, like R&B. And they would look for like guest DJs to do the top 8 at 8. Mm-hmm. And they'd be like, hey, if you're interested in, announcing a song on the top 8 at 8, just give us a call. And so I'd call in, and my voice had slowly changed. And so I'd be like, hey, can I be a guest DJ? And they're like, say this. And I'm like, awesome. So I'd say that. And then do it again the next night or the next week. And then one day my phone rang and the guy was like, "Hey, would you mind just doing all 8 songs for us?" I was like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Could you just ramble them off?" I'm like, "Sure, give me what they are and I'll just shoot them." Kind of like what you were doing prior to the show. Just all you need is like a keyword and you can fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Hey, this is Tony G calling in from Santa Cruz tonight on the top 888. Number 7. Coming into number 7, it's da 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 da, right?" And I was like, "Shit, I just did this. And the next day at school, people are like, "Were you on the radio last night?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "That was awesome." And what I realized was that there was a gift in using my voice, but most people don't know. I didn't talk until I was 4. I like basically was in special ed all the way through 12th grade. So I, didn't stutter, but I kind of just lacked some skills. My mom
Yeah.
always said that my mind was going a million miles an hour, like you can tell on the show, and then my body caught up. And so I just use it as a catalyst to kind of take me into the next thing I did in life. Radio led me into the internet because I was working in radio, and then somebody handed me a laptop and asked me if I could build a website. I was living in Silicon Valley, and I'm like, sure. And next thing, one thing led to another. Some 25 years later, I've been on the internet every single day. As we say it in our house, you're on the net. Like I'm on the net, right? Every single day.
What was your name when you were 13 years old as a radio personality? Did you have one?
Yeah, it was probably, "Hi, it's Tony Grebmeier, and you're listening to, KSBB Pebble Beach." It was probably something very similar to that. And
Talking
then,
Tony?
no, it was probably trying to say my name. And then when I went into, Rock Bob and Country Bob, and then it was like Tony Grebmeier. And then I got my first job at the station where I got to push buttons. And there was a guy named Danny Garrett, and he works for television and he's been pretty successful in the sportscasting world. And I said, "Oh, Danny G." I'm like, "I'll be Tony G." And then my buddy Jim Barbie made a G string kind of like sounder for tonight on the G string. Zzz, woo! It was like, it's gonna be a fun show. And so I did that. And then a lot of people had a hard time with like Tony G. It's just like on a country radio, it was just weird. So when I finally landed in San Jose, my business partner here, his last name is Roberts. And so I picked it up and used Tony G. Roberts. And that's pretty much what I was for most of my time in radio. And then until I tapped out, and then I just went back to Tony Grebmeier.
How do you do the radio? Like, what is the radio voice? Like, they teach you that? Like, how do you turn it on and off? It's like, why is that a thing? And why did I always think that's just how radio hosts talked in their everyday life?
I don't necessarily know if it's that. I think it's more to have fun, right? So give me something you would like me to talk about. Like give me something like a TV show, a book, anything, and I'll show you how we do it.
Yeah, like tonight on let's talk about Bad Batch, like the Star Wars. Like, say you had to promote that. It was coming out on like Tuesday or something. Like, what is something you would say?
Tuesday night, 8:00 on the Disney Plus channel. Don't miss this episode of the Bad Batch. Right? It's like that's a really bad one, but it would be like that.
Yeah.
Like I always say, like I'd flip it. I'd be like, in a world long after the Empire has finished, the Bad Batch is born. Disney Plus, tune in at 8:00 Tuesday night for season 2. Right? It'd be something like that. And that's just natural because all really I'm doing is just changing a couple things in my diaphragm.
Yeah.
And just adjusting, right? And I do voices, so radio for me is nothing more than theater and just entertainment and having fun.
Yeah, I was always into getting into radio. I don't know why I didn't do it. I think there was a college I wanted to go to and I didn't.
You sound great, dude. You should do a podcast or something.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. Just like 20 minutes or so. I didn't think I can do it that long. Yeah, I was always fascinated by it, but I always found it weird that you had to go to like school for it or like classes because I was like, you're just talking to a microphone, but obviously there's more to it.
There is.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have some requirements by law. You do have to keep records. You do have to pay attention, right? You do sign your name a lot. Like usually when I was in radio back in the day, I'm sure some of it's digital now, but really it's no different, but it really is completely different than what it was when I was in radio. Yeah. I had to literally, my first boss told me like, type up everything you wanted to say. When I was getting ready to get out of radio, they were putting like cards in front of me and say, read that. Like basically read that verbatim. And with podcasting, as you know, I mean, if you want to say F or you want to say this or you want to do that, like you just do it. And the people will censor you. Like that's what's cool about life. Like if
Yeah.
people resonate with you, they'll let a couple words go by. And I don't swear because I'm like, ooh, I'm lazy with my language. Just sometimes I drop an F bomb because I was in the mood to drop an F bomb, and you couldn't do that in radio. You know, I could never swear. You could never even. You had to follow protocol, and that's why I like being kind of in control and in charge of my show and the way that I create content and put it out into the world. Because it, for me, I just really want to be me. I don't want to be somebody I'm not. And I felt like when I was in radio, I was tonight at 7 o'clock on the CNN, right? And now it's just like, hey, let's just have a conversation.
Yeah. I always felt that was always very tough. And I remember you were saying to me that never apologize for who you are. And I always drop F bombs instead of like ums for the most part in my episodes, because it's just like I've always said it and I try not to myself. But on people's episodes or guests I'm on, I make sure to be more presentable. And I am still being myself to a point, but I'm more relaxed in my own set. I'm like, fuck it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we were talking a little bit about, I had a radio program director who really helped me to understand like how the easiest way to talk on the radio was, right? And that was to imagine like your friend, your partner, life, whatever, was about 100 feet down the hall, and you needed to get their attention, but you couldn't scream their name.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you get their attention?
To stop banging on the wall.
No, but like using your voice, right?
Yeah.
So you couldn't yell at them. What would you do? You'd talk a little louder. You'd be like, "Hey Tim, it's Tony. Hey, how you doing?" That's my radio voice.
Yep.
Otherwise, it'd be like, "Hey Tim, it's Tony." That's not a very sexy or fun radio voice. So
yeah,
it's really about just finding the inflection, finding where you feel comfortable. And that's really kind of you have a great voice. You have great presence too, by the way. Like, I mean, yeah, you're in a closet, but I think that it's more you're you. And that is the thing that is lacking in a lot of the world is everybody's trying to be somebody they're not. And I'm like, just be you.
Yeah.
People are going to like you or they're not. And that's okay. Your job isn't to make everybody like you. Your job is to provide amazing value in everything that you do to make the world around you better. And if people want to jump on that, then that works out and everything gets better. Does that make sense?
Yes, I totally agree. I don't like following rules either. I never want to do interviews and be like the basic, like, oh, tell me about this. Like, I like having normal conversations, and that's what people like about this podcast. And you even said to me, which I took a lot in from when we talked, was like, ask questions that the listener wants to ask, and they can't because they're not part of the show right now. And I took that and just ran with it for the past couple interviews I've done. And I feel like they've come out great. People are like, oh, that interview was awesome. Like, I'm glad that you asked this and that. So yeah, I took a lot of information from you, which is great. And we only talked for like 20 minutes.
Yeah. You got to remember one thing, right? So comedy, television, sitcom or whatever, if it was the same script every time, you'd be like, oh, God, another episode of that show. Right. But if you're like, I wonder what they're going to do Thursday night when I tune in to watch the show, and then you hang up and you're like, well, that wasn't a very good episode, but that was definitely entertaining, right? Yeah. That's what you want to do. You just want to flip it up enough so that people don't know what's coming, but they know that it's something entertaining for the next 20, 30, 40 minutes when they hit play on the episode. They're just going to be like, hey, I didn't resonate with everything that guy Tony said, but I sure liked listening to Tim. Tim asked like 5 questions the entire time and Tony talked for the rest of it. It was like, can we have more Tim and less Tony? Like, but your audience is great because if you ask for the feedback, they'll give you the feedback.
Yeah. And I have my episodes on Tuesday, which is good for episodes on Thursday for interviews because I let my guests talk because they're more interesting than me in that moment, because Tuesday is what I'm giving you. And then Thursday is about you. That's what people like. My big goal is not to wear a leather jacket and jump over a shark on a boat. You know what I'm saying? Be like the Fonz.
You want to wear a Speedo and swim underneath the boat.
Yeah. And punch the shark right in the mouth.
There you go. I like it.
That's what I want to do. I know we're living in the present, so I'm going to bring up your past a little bit, and then we'll wrap up a little bit if that's fine. Is that all right with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the $1 million in debt, like when did you have your revelation and your turn in your life that you were like where you are today is incredible. Like I said, now let's get to the point where you were down and out, but then you started to get better, but then you went back down, right? Correct?
Yeah. Remember, I told you I modeled my dad
Yes.
up,
So
down, up, down. And when I was
how old were you? I think that's
12
where
years off of this, so 36 is when I finally got my shit together. 34 was really bad.
yeah.
34, 35, 36, I was separated from my wife. We had been married for a period of time. We're coming up on 23 years of marriage. So we were separated for 3 of those years. I would miss some holidays. I'd move in on a Friday, leave on a Sunday. I was just really jacked up in
Mhm.
drugs. I don't blame drugs. I blame my thinking. I blame my circumstances for not dealing with the trauma from my past. And then when I got in trouble, I immediately made something from my past become something very in the present. And I've had some terrible things happen to me. I've done some terrible things to people, but I needed to own my shit.
Mhm.
And I remember needing money, and I like applied for a credit card online, and I got declined again. And I just said, this shit sucks, dude.
That's
Like,
an
I have
awful
jacked
feeling.
up my family. Everything's falling apart. And that's really when my buddy, John, came and knocked on my door. I mean, I, I could party with the best of them. Like, I could go out like on a Tuesday night. This would be a good Tuesday night. This was like a good Tuesday. I could go out on a Tuesday, go to a sushi restaurant with a bunch of guy friends, drink a whole bunch of sake, have a couple Vicodin, do a couple rails, come back and do a couple Xanax, go to bed, get up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, and do it all over again. Like that wasn't like what I did, but that would be something that like I could do, right? And very
Yeah.
manageable. But then there's those times where I just couldn't do that anymore. And that's where my life became unmanageable. That was where I was lying where I was at, lying what I was doing, lying who I was with. And then all of that became really unmanageable to juggle. And that's when my life got really out of control. And that's when I didn't know I was an alcoholic. I didn't have a title to put to I was a drug addict. I didn't like my wife and I, we talk sometimes like, what's your idea of an alcoholic, like a guy under a bridge with drinking a bottle of something with a brown bag around it. Like that's what people would
Right.
say. It was me. I was that guy. I mean, I could crush like 14 Vicodin in a day and just eat them up and be like, all right, cool. Let's go do my job.
Damn.
Um, I was, I think there's a term for it, but I would pharmacy shop. I was, I could go through 90 pills on a weekend, because I'd invite a friend or two to help, get some of those pills to be gone. And I was just numbing, feeling like everything in my world was falling apart. Because, a prescription was like $6
Yeah.
for 90 pills. It didn't cost much, but the damage it did was priceless, man. It would just cost just so much damage. So once my buddy John knocked on my door and gave me the ability to see where I needed to make some shifts, it took me about 45 or 50 days to finally give up drinking. And then on 12/14 of '08, I called up a friend after taking a test online. And it was a pass fail kind of test. It was like, answer these questions if you're alcoholic. And I took them and I was like, shit, I am an alcoholic. I'm like, I think I need a meeting. I didn't even know what I was needing. No one needs a meeting. I don't think anybody in their life goes, I'm going to go have a meeting today. Like no one wants to go to a meeting, but I took it and I went in and I sat in the corner and I was in a meeting and I heard my story get shared and I had somebody come up and tell me to read this book. It could change my life. And I did all that. And I haven't had a drink since. And so something between kind of that 45 days, getting my life in a mess to where it is, till I got really sober. And then the past 12 years or so, is really just saying, you know what, in all of us is the ability to change. You know, Buckminster Fuller has a great quote. I'll mess it up, but like, to change an existing reality, you got to build a new one that makes the old one obsolete, right?
Yep.
And it's available to all of us at any time. And I just was at the point where I wanted to change, and then it humbled me enough to ask my wife for another chance. And we've been back together, happily married, and the best years of my life are here now. She's my best friend, and we got to spend every waking moment besides going to work together. We live, you know, on a ranch. Recently, we moved out into the country, and so it's just her and our dog, and 35 acres. So it is an absolute gift and a blessing to wake up beside your best friend. And I thank God all the time for allowing me the opportunity to work on this marriage and my relationship, because it was something that I took for granted, and now I can't live without it.
Phenomenal. I feel like we are a lot alike because I was down and out about 2 years ago when I was about 34, 33, and I attempted suicide as well. But my best friend didn't come over. It was my cat that woke me up. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, do you need to eat? And then like I got like busy and did all that shit. And I was like, I need to go get help or whatever. I never really dabbled in drugs and don't think I have a drinking problem. I just kind of stopped drinking because I never felt good. Like it's a negative thing for your body. Um, so I do agree with that. Now, did he know something was up, or he just kind of knew you would not do it?
Everybody, from what I heard, knew that something was up with me.
Okay, that's great that someone could point that out and have a friend come over. Friends are the best, aren't they? Like good friends.
They are, man, and you know, a lot of us take them for granted, and that's why I'm a believer. You just pick up your phone and call random people on random days with no need in return.
Yes.
You know,
I love doing that, like sending a buddy a text that you haven't talked to in years and bringing up an old memory. Like when because I do things that I love to happen to me, and that's one of the best things that is like a good
why'd you
feeling.
hit the cancel recording button?
I didn't.
Yeah, it's not recording anymore.
It says it's recording on my end.
I'm just making sure you're paying attention. Okay,
Oh,
cool. Keep
I'm
going.
paying attention, you motherfucker. Why? Was I not paying attention?
No, I don't know. You're in a closet. It's hard for me to really take you serious.
I know. That's the best thing about me is no one ever takes me serious. I always say I say I'm passive unaggressive, where I say serious things in a. You want to go again?
With the eyes open, though.
All right. It's on a delay. You're gonna cheat.
Ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Ah, shit! I lost again. All right, that's 3 for 3 for you today. All right,
They're
cool.
gonna see this. You beat me.
It's okay, dude. It's a game of rock, paper, scissors.
It's hand-to-hand combat, though.
I'll put you on my shoulders and we'll play a game of horse, and I'll let you dunk.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Wait, Spud Webb was 5'6".
He ain't Spud Webb.
I know. I'm not even close. I can't even dribble with my left hand. All right, we'll finish up with this because, well, give me the short story because I feel like you're getting bored about talking about your past. So how do you survive killing yourself and then turning it into a $40 million business? Like, how does that just happen? Like, you just get a loan. You're like, yeah, I couldn't get a credit card, but I figured it out.
Hey Siri, 12 times 365.
12 times 365 is 4,380.
1 day at a time.
Ah, man, that was good. I'll say this though, who was that? Because that wasn't Alexa or Siri. That was like a dude named Alex.
Hello Siri, what's my name? That's some Irish version of the app. You can change the setting in the voice.
I was like,
When I went to Ireland with my wife, like in last March of 2020, I just said, hey, if I'm going to be there, I'm going to ask everybody and try to ask for directions. I'm like, let's see what you've got. And so I changed it then, and I've left it, and it makes me laugh because it messes up my name. It'll say like Tony Grebmeier, and then it'll say my son's name, and it'll completely jack up the last name to something else. And I'm like, dude, didn't you just learn that you just said it right one way, and now you're saying it completely different the next?
Yeah.
My belief, and I think to answer your question again, it's hard to do this, man. It's hard to turn your life around. You know that, right? 2 years, you're down and out, world's coming to an end, craziness. But I've talked to you a couple of times, and I know that your wife's a huge support.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for some really amazing people stepping in to help me. And And all they did was hold up a mirror so I could see my reflection. So I could see that I mattered and what I did matter. And, maybe I just needed to change some of the things that I was doing. And the the old me is like some people want, hey, where is the old me? I'm like, it's still there. But I've worked on really helping the old me to become the new version. And that new version is somebody who just I mean, I can mess around on this all day, man, but for me, sobriety, I take it 100% serious. I mean, I was meeting with a sponsee this morning. My sponsor was there. We sat and we broke bread and just chatted, man, and like rip away all the band-aids, man. Let the blood gush, let the
Yeah.
tears fall, let the life, all the crap that you're holding on to go because it just doesn't serve you. And um it's just kind of like I want to drop the rock. I just want to drop like holding all this shit that I've held on to all my life. And if I can be of service and hold the mirror up for somebody else to see their shit today and be there for them, not run from them, but like embrace them and I love them. And, I hold a guy and I'm like, dude, I love you, bro. Like, I'm just like, I'm proud of you for doing the hard stuff. I kind of believe that's why I'm here. I was given an opportunity. I'm not going to waste it, and I did. I almost really, I literally got out of debt. One dime, one quarter, one, nickel, one penny, one
Yeah.
phone call, one day at a time. And I just choose to live that best version of my life today. And it's like, as you say, our time's almost up. I'm like, that's cool. Your time's almost up. I'm like, I hope my time isn't up. I don't have anywhere to be. I'm here with you. And it took me a long time to get there. It really did because, I'd walk around going, when's so good, man? When's the other shoe going to drop? And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's a shitty way to live life. So just one day at a time, man. It works for me. And I know it works for thousands of other people. And I've seen it firsthand with a lot of men that I've helped.
I feel like I can answer this question for you. If you had to give one key, because we learned a lot today, if you had to give one message across to somebody that might be in your situation, or you had to go back in time to tell like 35-year-old Tony a tip to give, I want to say the answer would be just live in the moment, take it day by day. That would be your biggest takeaway to give somebody.
Yeah. And then Yoda provides like some of the best advice,
Right.
do or do not. There is no try. Right. And just do it, man. Like,
Yeah.
cause you're not going to know unless you go for it.
Yeah.
You're going to have those what ifs. And I don't want those what ifs in my life. I don't want to go like today. I was driving to go to meet up with some friends this morning for breakfast. And I looked out and there was these two hot air balloons and they were high up. And I said something to a buddy on the phone with, he's like, that's a rich man sport. And I'm like, well, hell, it doesn't matter if it's a poor man sport. I ain't getting up in one of those things.
Yeah. No, me neither.
But then I had this crazy thought. I'm like, but what if I could? What happens if someone says, hey, Tony, you want to come up in a hot air balloon, knowing what I know today about life? And there's a part of me like, and this didn't exist 15 years ago in me. There's curiosity today. And that lets me know that my guard has shifted a little bit from being super protective, making sure everything's just perfect, to just being more open-minded to what's going on. And that means that I have an awareness today around me that I didn't have before. And that I give all the glory and grace to God for really helping me to see my blind spots and helping me to show up differently for others.
I have another question about where you're at right now, because we're living in the present moment. The photo behind you, that gentleman with you, looks very familiar. It must mean a lot to you because you have a very large photo behind you. Who is that?
He was one of my coaches and mentors. His birthday would have been yesterday.
Yeah.
He would have been 41. His name is Sean Matthews. No, sorry. Sorry.
Sean Matthews is from Boy Meets World, I think.
Sean Matthews works here, and I have like 3 Seans in my life. His name was Sean Stevenson, the 3-foot tall giant. Look him up on YouTube. He did some dance parties. He was an amazing human being. He wasn't supposed to live past birth. doctors all told him that he wouldn't make it. I loved hearing his TED talk. He basically said, all those doctors told my parents that I wouldn't make it. And I'm the only doctor standing and they're all dead. And he had a PhD. I mean, he's just a phenomenal human being. He left behind a huge legacy. So a lot of people that he helped really are doing their part to just kind of share that message. So Sean Stevenson, he's just a dear friend. And I had that sketched that was our very first photo we ever took together. I met him in Cleveland and I had just heard about him several weeks ago. And then I saw a video of him the night before, and then he rolled into my life, and he was supposed to come. I was supposed to podcast with him the day he died, and he was supposed to come to Colorado and hang out that week. And, I had some things that I had to work through, but that guy right there, all of him, he said it best. He goes, God put me in this container, and it's what we all have is we're just in a container, and to take care of it and do what you can and help make everything around you better. And I could send you video after video of the way that he would send you a little text message and just tell you, I was thinking about you and how much he cared about you. And when I went to a mastermind where a bunch of business colleagues got together, we were talking and he's like, oh, he sent me one too. And then we were comparing videos. I mean, the guy just would make time for anybody. And so he's holding a dance party in heaven, and he has done an amazing job of helping myself to find my true potential. And he helped write the foreword inside my journal. And he's just a phenomenal human being. So
I'm glad I asked about that photo. I wasn't going to ask about it, but I did. Because you
thanks. I appreciate it. I messed up his name, but it makes me laugh because I'm
probably laughing at you for messing it up.
I know he loves me. He loved me regardless. So
let's end with this now. I keep saying we're going to end soon, but I just love talking to you. 3 things, maybe out of the box, little things in life. What are you grateful for right now? Actually, think of 3 things right now that you're grateful for. Because this is all about being in the present, and I love it. Because I have like a bunch of messages on my phone right now, and I don't give a fuck because I'm in this moment.
I mean, I'm entirely grateful for sobriety. Sobriety let me find God, gave me the ability to repair my marriage, and helped me to be present with my kids. And that's 1. I'm going to tie all that up into 1. Number 2, I'm super grateful and blessed every single day to come work with my business partner, Doug, and the business that we're doing that, has been going for 20 years. Pre-pandemic, there was like 35 people or families of, helping. Now there's over 80 plus people, and we're growing. And I love the fact that we're able to impact a lot of people's lives, and we run a really amazing company, and we do what we can to make everything better. And then number 3, great relationships, man, like yours, friends that come over to just take a walk with me or call me or send me a text message and remind me and help me to see that I do matter. Because it doesn't matter if I look like I have it all figured out. I don't. And I've learned that along the way. No one has it all figured out. They're just really good at making it look like they do. I'm just like any human being, man. I've got a ton of emotions. I wear them sometimes on the outside, but at the end of it, I'm just grateful for people who share their heart with me and give me an opportunity to do the same.
Great answers. Phenomenal answers. You're a big music guy. What would be your theme song that you would come out to? Say you're like a professional wrestler, MMA guy, boxer, whatever you like out of the 3 the most. What would be your song? Curtain opens up, boom, Tony G hits out.
Westbound and down, 18-wheeler rolling. Are we going to do what they say can't be done?
So just a song from Smoking the Bandit. It's been on my playlist. My wife will probably text me. We during the day, she's at home working and I'm here, and I'll hijack her Spotify account and play some songs, and then her music will stop at her house, and then we just have fun going back. We both have family accounts, but we just have fun playing that game. So I got a text while on. She's like, hey, I see you. I heard you hijacked my account. So we have fun with each other.
Dude, I do that to my wife all the time. Like if I'm not home or I'm upstairs, I always put Nickelback Photograph on, and I always just go, look at this photograph, and she's like, shut the fuck up. I do it every so often, so randomly. That's so funny that you do that too, man.
Yeah.
We're a lot alike, and I love it.
I was trying to see if her text was there, but that came when we were talking.
So that's called Westbound and Down. I thought it was going to be Eastbound and Down, kind of like the
That's
show.
what it, didn't I say Eastbound and Down? No, it's Westbound. It's Westbound and Down.
Yeah.
Westbound and Down.
I thought it was Eastbound and Down.
Yeah.
Well, Tony, where can everyone find you on the internets? Where can they learn more about you? Where can they go to your shop, your just your life in general? How can people stalk you on the internet?
At 20T minutes.
That's what Alexa says to me. They go 20 TI minutes. Oh my gosh, you can't even say it right either.
No, you can just check out my first and last name, Tony Grebmeier, and you should be able to find me on pretty much any social media platform. I love Facebook connections. I love Instagram, messages. If I can be of service, if I can help you in any way, please reach out. It's not a money thing to me, so you don't owe me anything. Your time is most valuable. So if there's something I can do, point you in a direction, use me as a Rolodex, use me as a resource, use me as somebody who definitely just wants to care. That's my mission in life, is to help people. So take full advantage of it, and everything you need, you can find at tonygrebmeier.com.
I feel like your Twitter account is very underrated too. I feel like you should have more interactions. You have great questions on there. I'm always retweeting them. So I think your Twitter number should be 10 times more than what it is right now.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to work on my Twitter account. So I'm going to have to figure out how to get those numbers up. So maybe if you find a Twitter expert, we can do that.
Dude, this is what it is. You're going to get like 20 new followers because of this show, 22 minutes. That's pretty much what it is.
20 is way better than where I was at today, and I'll take it, because you never know. And Sean and myself, we used to have this conversation all the time. It's not about the amount of followers. It's about the value of each follower that they bring to your life.
Yes, I agree with that too.
So I'm not about the followers. I'm about the impacts. And so if I can, I was somewhere the other day, and I was having the guy who saved me picked me up when I was in Los Angeles last week. I performed a service, a wedding, and he took me and we went out to dinner. The whole time his phone was sitting on the table, and he goes, "Dang." I'm like, "I know, man. I got people who help me." And then like his Twitter, his feed was like showing up with all my name, and I'm like, "See, like it just happens. Like don't put so much effort into it. Just like build the team around you and let the team help you."
I'm ordaining a wedding coming up. I'm definitely going to have to pick your brain on that. It's going to be my first one.
It was my first one.
Holy shit, dude. Are we brothers?
I wore Italian linens the entire time. I stood up in Italian linens, my hat on, and I was chill. And it was fun. It was great. And the one thing I can tell you is don't overthink it.
Yeah. No. Yeah, that's a good. I'll try that.
Thanks again for having me on your show, man. I do got to tell you, anybody who's listening right now, if you haven't tweeted it, shared it, left them a review, take the moments and the time to help this show grow, regardless. Like you can tell them to bypass the episode with that tall, lanky dude.
Yeah.
But what the goal is like his ad dollars is the effort and energy he's putting into getting these episodes out to the world. And what we can do as listeners and people is help spread the message. And it takes just a second to do so. So as you're listening to this show, this is a shameless plug, but I'm a hard believer that you, the listener, has an ability to bring a great impact into this gentleman's life by just doing your part. And that's kind of like the dues we pay for listening to this free show.
Tony, I really appreciate that. That was very nice of you. And same to you. Everyone go, after you do my reviews, go listen to him, review him up. And stop giving me gifts. I'm giving you gifts. So we're just going to gift each other back. Tony G, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy life. I love you so much, my man. And hopefully we can link up sometime in the future.
I have to, where are you at again?
I'm in Massachusetts. It's the great arm of the Americas.
The Americas. All right, cool. I'm coming. I want to go see a Red Sox game and I want to see a Celtics game.
That's 100% doable. 100% doable. The Fenway Park.
Can we get a 2-for-1? Like I sneak you in and then you let me in? Can we do that?
I'll be on your shoulders. We'll get a big old coat, do the old school trench coat. But
I like it.
Fenway Park might not be friendly for you because your knees might be touching your chin in those little last seats, man. They have never upgraded any of the seats ever.
I love it. No, that's fine. We'll figure it out, man. But it's an honor. It's absolute privilege. I got a chance to have you on my show in a couple of days. So thanks for coming on and being a guest. And until next time, man, thank you so much.
My man, I love you. Have a good one.
You too. I love you.